Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater. I am joined by sales engineer Sarah Lambert. It's great to have you here.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about how to get started mixing in Atmos. Now, Atmos, of course, most of us think of a huge speaker array and subwoofers and all kinds of hardware and things we need to have, but you can actually get started working with Atmos basically with just a DAW, your laptop, and the renderer software, which we're going to talk about in just a second. So that's really all you need to kind of get started?
Yeah, it is. I mean, a big surround sound setup is what's recommended, but you could just use, right now we have Pro Tools and we have the Dolby Atmos renderer on your computer and just a pair of headphones, and you can actually create a mix that way.
You can start working in the binaural version of Atmos anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Now, is Pro Tools the only way we can do this on a laptop?
No. So there are other DAWs that work with the renderer, and then there are some that actually have the renderer built in. Mm-hmm. There's Logic, Nuendo, and
I think Cubase also has it, and DaVinci Resolve if you're doing video.
Right.
And then Pro Tools and Live are supported, and then other DAWs, there are varying degrees of support. They aren't officially supported yet.
Right. There are some that communicate to the renderer just fine. You may actually need the separate renderer, but it works.
Right. Now, speaking of the renderer, there's two packages that are available from Dolby. There's the production suite, and there is the mastering suite. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between those?
So the mastering suite allows you to pull up the renderer on a separate computer, and that has a lot of benefits, one of which is saving your CPU. It takes a lot of power. It's taxing on your computer to have both the renderer and your session running at the same time. So that gives you a benefit. You could also run a lot more DSP plugins should you have the renderer on a separate computer. The
production suite?
The production suite, you can run just on the same computer, but it still gives you the ability to render that metadata and create those deliverables just fine.
Right, and I've got an M1 Max here, and with a fair amount of RAM in it, and we've had no trouble running both of them in the same computer. Works just fine. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get started, you don't have to have a second computer. This is the way to do that. Now, the production suite, you can download a 90-day free trial from Dolby.com to get started with it, and then you can also purchase that from Avid.com, correct?
Yes. Pro Tools right now, actually, if you are subscribed to it, you can buy it for an extra $99. It's normally $300, a production suite. Mm-hmm. But if you get Pro Tools, you can get it for a discount.
Get it for $99.
Yeah.
And like I said, for 3 months, you can try it out for free on your computer anyway and see if it's something you want to explore. I've been having fun with it. I mean, it's why wouldn't you?
Yeah, we've been looking at it just for not too long, but already it's exciting. It's something that's really fun to get into. So glad to sort of show what it can do.
So let's. There's some things we have to do to set up the renderer, as well as some things we have to do in Pro Tools to get the two talking to each other. Let's kind of go step by step through what we need to do.
Yeah, so let's go through this so that we know how to set it up properly so people feel confident jumping into this. So we have the renderer open right now. We're going to start here. When you go into Preferences, you want to make sure right now we're set to Core Audio through Mitch's computer, and we have the input device as Dolby Atmos Bridge. That is going to be the way that we connect to Pro Tools and have these two software working with each other. We have the output device right now just set to his MacBook Pro speakers, our LTC channel set to channel 129, that's by default. You can check off headphone mode only if you're going to be working with headphones, which we are right now. And if you go into headphone over here, we want to make sure that this is on binaural. It is already, and that's good. That means we're going to be actually listening to our Atmos mix and not just a stereo mix. Press accept.
So that's pretty much it. And the renderer, what that does is take all the outputs from Pro Tools for all these different surround channels and all the immersive channels and things, and sort of brings them together in a way that you can listen to them and also ultimately create deliverables that you'll send to someone else or listen to in other ways.
Yeah, so why the renderer is necessary is Atmos involves a lot of metadata that needs to be read alongside the audio to know how to place it, to know how to filter it. And so the renderer is what incorporates that to your audio in sync with the LTC track, and that's how you're able to create that audio and create the deliverables that you need. So this is a necessary part of it.
Right. For now, we're just monitoring through it, which is fine. We can just listen to what it's doing, and we're all good. But we do need to launch Pro Tools, so let's go ahead and get that going here. And once that launches, then there'll be a few settings we need to make there. Now, can we use any audio? Like I've just got a folder here with some tracks from a song I'm working on. Can we just use that audio in there, or does it have to be a certain format?
Yeah, no, you absolutely can just drag in WAV files. I recommend when you start with this using the Pro Tools template that they have prepared for Dolby Atmos. It'll show you all the routing of your objects, and then you can just drag in what you would like to be an object, a WAV file from perhaps a previous session, and then you can focus on the Atmos aspect of your mix, the panning and that sort of thing.
Okay. Now, you mentioned two things there that I want to clarify. One is bed tracks and one is objects. What are those and what's the difference between them?
Okay, so you have 10 channels that is your bed. So that is going to be like traditional surround sound.
Okay.
It's going to be audio that is sent to your speakers and it stays where it's at, or it has normal traditional panning. The objects, and what's different about them, is that they are not tethered to a specific speaker. You can pan them around like crazy if you want to, in elevation, left and right behind your head, and it will maintain that mix, that format, whether you are working on a 7.1.4 system, 5.1.4, or just in headphones. It'll sort of down mix and collapse and still keep that that same aspect.
So working in binaural, then we are still going to get the effect.
Correct. Yeah, you're going to experience the panning. It isn't quite the same as if you hear everything on a lot of speakers, but it is. It's very cool, and you can actually have a mix translate well.
Nice. Okay, so we've got Pro Tools opened up here, and you had mentioned we want to create from a template. So let's go ahead and just select that there, and we need to get into our Dolby Atmos selections here. And what do we want to choose?
So let's choose we want the renderer Dolby Atmos Bridge Stereo. And for our I/O settings, we can choose the matching audio bridge stereo. We want to leave it at 24-bit and 48K here with the file type as BWF. So that is all we need to do. And we can name this whatever we want, Dolby.
There's one other step that we need to make here, and we actually learned this the hard way, didn't we? We were
gosh.
trying to make it work. But
Yeah.
you have to basically allow the renderer to access the Mac's built-in microphone. Not sure why, but it's something that seems to be required for this to work.
To get the renderer to be able to have levels and see audio from your Pro Tools session.
Right, and so that's in your system settings for your Mac in the privacy settings, and you just enable it for the Dolby renderer, and it works.
Voila.
Okay, so our session is opened up, and this looks a little bit different than a traditional Pro Tools session. We've got some extra columns and things. Tell us what's going on here.
Yes, so we have an extra column that says object. This is a great way to see all of your objects, what is an object, how it is routed. And so when I press this button here, you'll notice it can actually toggle in between being a bed and being an object. And you can actually automate this if you want to.
Okay, and above that, there's actually a 7.1.4 bed track, right? This next track up here.
Yes, so you'll notice that this session has a bunch of objects, and you can delete the ones that you're not using. These are all stereo. They have 2 channels on them. And then there's this 7.1.2 bed. So this, and it says right on here, is where you want to send your audio that you want to send to the bed. So the things that you don't want to be objects that are independently moving around.
Okay, so for now, let's just drag a stereo track in and get some audio working and just get it routed, make sure we got everything happening properly.
Let's start with that.
Okay.
So Mitch has a file here of some WAV files. So let's drag guitar left and right into here.
Session, we'll zoom it a little bit so we can see where that's at. And let's go ahead and create a loop so that that'll play back. So we'll just select here. So we've got audio in there, but actually we still need to make some settings in Pro Tools for this to work, correct?
Right, so you want to double check a few settings in Pro Tools. You're going to want to go into the setup, and you want to see that this is the Dolby Atmos bridge. Remember, is how it's going to speak to the renderer. And then in peripherals, we want to check over here at Dolby Atmos that we have a connection here. Right now it is black. Right now we want it green. It is connecting, and there is our computer.
So when that's solid green, we should be ready to go. So we've got our settings made in the renderer, we've got our settings made in Pro Tools. Now when we hit play, we should hear audio.
That's right.
Do the honors. There we go. Now at this point, that's just a stereo pair feeding into the renderer.
Right.
It's not really doing anything.
Correct.
As far as Atmos is concerned. So how do we get to where we can pan things around and take advantage of all that Atmos offers us?
So one thing that is now native to Pro Tools, which is very neat, is a new plugin. So this plugin you can insert right on your audio track. Let's search for Dolby, and it is the stereo panner plugin. Alrighty, so we got this pulled up. We have this on localhost because we're just using this one computer. And the objects we have in this first column are objects 11 and 12. So those are going to be your first objects. We want them working together. So we can change this, this button to gray. If it's green, it means it's functioning as a single object. So we needed to take that off in order to route this here. So we do actually need to make sure that our plugin is routed to the appropriate objects on the track and make sure all of these match.
So at this point, then, the audio is playing in Pro Tools, passing through the panner just as it would any other plugin.
Right.
But this panner then allows us to route to these objects that are going to send into the renderer, and you can apply different panning things here. I call them things.
Yes, let's get into the things, because the things are lots of fun. So right now it has automatically set up to mirror X, and that means on the X axis, whatever I do to this object, you can drag and move around the other object, and you can actually, record this in so that during your song you can have it move around however you like. You can even put it on X, Y, and have them move around in this manner, or you can press copy, in which case they're both going to be doing the same thing and they're both going to be moving in the same direction at the same time.
Okay. And so let's go back to the XY one there, which is probably where you're often going to be using that, in one of those anyway. So we can automate this. Do you do this in real time? There are other controls as well, right?
Yeah, so you could drag it around if you wanted to, but there's actually a sequencer down here, and it's a pretty cool feature. If you turn this on, let's say we want to edit the first step, we could draw a squiggly line here if we wanted our object to, for some reason, move like this and then come back to the start. So when I press done, what we'll see when we press play is our object moving around like I have it. Now, right now it's moving around very fast. It actually moves around per the BPM of the song. And here's where you can change that. So if we want it to move slower, we can choose, there you go.
Wow, that is cool.
Yeah, it's lots of fun.
And then you can have different steps with, I'm assuming, different patterns then that you could switch among different panning patterns and paths.
The sky's the limit with this. And speaking of sky, that's a bad pun, but here's some elevation tools that you may have, where if you move the object overhead, you will actually see that the bubble sort of gets bigger, and that shows you that it's closer to the ceiling, above the head, closer to you. And when you move it down towards the sides, that's when you will be able to see it get smaller in reference to the room.
Ah, I see. Okay.
So they each kind of take different tracks with those.
So that allows you to get the height, elevation, they call it.
Yeah, it's an easy way to manage height because you're working on an X, Y, Z axis, so there's a lot to do. But this plugin makes it as simple as you can.
Right. So we'd continue loading up tracks. We could have our 7.1.2 bed tracks, almost as many objects as you possibly want.
Yeah.
If you have that many tracks or whatever, and just create your mix, and that's it, right?
Yeah, that's it. The last thing is the Ltc Generator, and Pro Tools did this automatically. So when we loaded up the template, we already had one of these, but if you wanted to create this, it's something that you need to have your session sync to the renderer so that when you are recording your master file, in the end, you want to make sure that the metadata is lined up exactly with your audio. So that's what this is for.
So that's time code, basically, that Pro Tools is sending into the renderer, and the renderer just follows that.
Yeah, LTC, TC for time code. And so this is just, all it is an aux channel, and we have this plugin there.
Which showed up automatically again in this template.
And that's...
But you could put that in as well. And where you see that is if we play back here and we switch to the renderer, we can see the time code here is following along with it. We also have meters, or basically you can see from the indicators level. We have meters there. You can see positioning.
Yep.
in the
there's our-
room, so you get a
there are
good readout of what's
projects.
happening. Get a good readout of what's happening in the renderer as well.
Yeah. Yeah, they're both very useful tools.
Yeah. Simple.
Yeah.
You just have to make some settings. You have to make sure the settings are right, and once you have that done, then you're just mixing like you'd create any mix, just incorporating all those extra dimensions that you can work in.
Yeah, it's a big step, and it's a lot more. It's a lot more to mixing. It's a lot more to audio, but I think it's very exciting for people that want to get their work out there and have it in a whole new format. You can absolutely do it.
Right. Sarah, thanks so much for taking the time to come down and show us this. I mean, man, it's a lot of fun just to
It is.
play with it.
Yeah, you just makes you want to dig in when you see all those effects you can do. But yeah, of course. Thanks so much.
Right, absolutely. So if you want to experience what it's like to mix with Atmos, you want to start with headphones, do a binaural mix, this is a great way to do it. Check out the production suite. It's available at avid.com. If you're a Pro Tools user, you can get it for $99, otherwise $299, I think is what the price is. And it all runs in one computer, make a few settings, and you're mixing in Atmos. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.